They went to the queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. Ron and I have a new setup here in the studio. And so we're a minute late because we had to make a couple changes. But anyways, we're glad to be here. John Atakis, good morning. For Razor, good to see you. Mata Easel, hi, Mom. Good morning, son. Shantini, good morning. Pony Boy, good morning. You guys have all made it. How great is that? Thank you so much. Okay, I know why you guys are here. You're here for the simultaneous sip. All you need is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice or stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip.
Hey, Lindsay, why don't you just admit that you're gay and then people won't blackmail you anymore?
It would be so easy, Lindsey Graham. Just admit it, and then your pain will be over. All right, we've got a good show for you guys today. Very busy weekend. Ron, did you hear about anything that happened this weekend by any chance?
Man, if you remind me, I might say I heard something, but no.
Did you cancel your Mexico plans by any chance?
I've never been to Mexico and have no plans.
Good thing. Puerto Vallarta is on fire. Look at this here. You could show the screen.
Whoa.
Yeah, so yesterday, a cartel member by the last name Mencho, who apparently is an older cartel member, it's been around for a while, and he runs the CJN, what is it, the CJNC or whatever it is, cartel. They control a whole big chunk of central Mexico. Like
so I just saw a thing with Mencho on my screen this morning, and I didn't know
showing the screen because I'm showing major devastation in this is wild what's going on.
Well, what I was going to say
Puerto Vallarta. This is Puerto Vallarta. This is where we go to vacation.
What I was going to say is I saw a picture of this Mencho guy, and you'd mentioned that he was some kind of older guy, and he looked like a kid.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, he's allegedly he's older. Who knows, man? I'm like, I follow the cartels that closely. But no, their attacks opened up all across Mexico. Like, wow. Every province that this cartel is in has massive gang violence going on. Cars burning, buildings being burnt. The hotel, the airport was utter chaos yesterday. Canadians and Americans have all been advised to shelter in place. Do not move. CJNJ, thank you, Pony Boy. Do not move. Like, it's a big deal what's going on.
Jeez, I had no idea.
Yeah. Like there was someone who took a panoramic from the beach in Panama, or not Panama, in Puerto Vallarta, and it was like the whole skyline was burning. The whole skyline was just smoke and pillars of smoke coming up all across the skyline. It was wild.
So this guy was killed or arrested or whatever, and so then this was the response?
Yeah, so he was arrested. He was arrested, or he wasn't arrested. He was arrested and then somehow killed in the process of being arrested by the Mexican military. Now, like last week or a week and a half ago, the Mexican Senate voted to allow the Navy SEALs to come into the sovereign Mexican space to assist the Mexican military against, those pesky international terrorists that the cartels have been named. So as the United States is full steam ahead and half of our Navy, the largest fighting force ever assembled in one area, is circling Iran, and we decide to take out a cartel member in Mexico. Now, when I say we, it's in dispute if the United States decided to do it or if Mexico decided to do it. But either way, it happened. Okay. I have a theory. I have a theory about what happened in Mexico yesterday. I believe this is an inadvertent dead man switch. Okay. So if I'm running a prison gang and I'm the shot caller, there is no heir apparent. Right? You can't have an actual number two that's going to run the place when you either get killed or get transferred.
Well, I would imagine if there was a number 2 already assigned, that he would just automatically slip into number 1.
Bingo, exactly. Because shiv, now I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Right. So you always, a leader who controls the Game of Thrones that's taken by force is going to pit his rivals against each other. Every prince and king understands this. This is like Machiavelli 101, right? You can't have a power base that becomes stronger than you. So you have to split the power below you.
Got it.
And so what I believe, you've got this axis between China, Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea, although I think Kim Jong-un's pretty well mitigated. And because they've been cut out of the US financial system, they've had to work together. Iran, Cuba, and China to some degree, and Venezuela was the bridge because they had access to the dollar system. Okay. By taking out Maduro and putting the Venezuelan current government in place, and it looks like whatever Trump is doing down there is working. Okay? Like it looks like that. Like the story has kind of died down. But let's assume that you don't have a really complicated bureaucratic chain of command. There's not like cabinet secretaries who communicate with Venezuelan cabinet secretaries who communicate with cartel bosses. Like this communication line is, Ayatollah to president to cartel leader to, you know what I mean? They've got a network that is exclusive even to them. So if you take out Maduro, how does the Ayatollah tell the Mexican cartels to pop off? Where's the communication chain? Right now, I don't know if there is or isn't one. I mean, you'd think if you just had some cell phone numbers, you could call a guy, right?
Right,
but
or
if
a
I'm
red phone or something.
If I'm Mencho and I answer to Scheinbaum, who answers to Maduro, who answers to Ayatollah, there's some broken links in that chain. And Scheinbaum is getting pressure from Trump to play like an actual nation state and stop playing like a cartel. You see what I'm saying? So Mencho dies and all of his captains and lieutenants, what's the dead man switch?
Yeah.
Violence. You've been trained for violence. You guys have been prepping for violence. And who's been preventing the violence? Mencho. Why? Because he's protecting the money. He's protecting the reserves. He's protecting the threat of performing violence. He's gone. There's no one to tell him not to perform violence. At the same time, right as we're about to attack Iran, which if you understand what was going on at the southern border, the number one passport coming through the southern border was Venezuelan, and it wasn't the number one passport, but it was the number one passport of people who were carrying a Venezuelan passport who did not speak Spanish. I would speak Spanish, but I'm from Venezuela. Doesn't make any sense, right? So we know we have Iranian terror cells, Tren de Agua gang cells inside the United States. Who's going to give the order to pop off?
I don't know.
If Mencho's gone. You know what I mean? Because if you pop off in the territory of the United States, all hell breaks loose. So who's going to give the order? So right as we're about to strike Iran, you take out a guy who could give the order. And so instead of fighting him on the streets of LA, we're going to fight him in the streets of Puerto Vallarta because they instantly popped off. The moment he was dead, the instant reaction was retaliation to anybody and everybody. And it's my opinion, what you're going to start to see is you're going to start to see the cartel bosses that are captains and lieutenants under Mencho. They're going to start to compete with each other to try to take the prize, to take the cartel over. And so what'll happen, it's just like in prison. You get support by winning battles. It's just like Rome, right? So you're going to have some boss in the Baja that takes over a subdivision. He's going to rally support, take over another subdivision. He'll rally support, move to another spot. Does that make sense? And as he wins and takes territory and takes over whatever levers that they use for power, he's going to amass a following until they take over. But
I hope they figure it out quick, because that could get ugly if it just drags out. I mean, that could just turn into a gang war.
Well, it gets really ugly because the cartels have armed themselves like a military. I'm going to show you this little video here. This is cartel members.
Oh, jeez.
So, I can't understand him in Spanish. Ponyboy could do it for me. But anyways, this is a cartel. This is not police force. This is not Delta Force. This is not military. These are street gang members from Mexico that are dressed up like that with combat gear. They're ready to go. I mean, this looks like Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe days.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. G.I. Joe in real life.
When we think of gangs, this is what we think of right here. This is Chicago. So this happened this weekend in Chicago.
Everybody got your cat?
So it's a lot of noise there. Guys are just talking about their guns. Apparently this guy's got some blood on his jewelry there. I got some dead man blood. So the reason this video went viral this weekend was because this gang, this little street gang, allegedly controls a huge swath of Chicago. Cops have a no-go zone. They're openly walking in the streets with their guns. Okay. Throw a couple helmets and body armor on those boys, and you have the same thing that you got shaping up down in Mexico. When I was in prison, there was a guy that I was with in DC. His name was PJ. He was the orderly when I was in solitary confinement. Kind of saved my life, actually, because Turk, the guy across the way that was there for carjacking, when I wouldn't give him my phone access to call his people to arrange some contraband drops, he threatened to kill me. If when I got out of my cell, they were going to kill me, blah, blah, blah. I don't tell the story too much. It was like my first week there. I was like, is this what I'm really going to live through for 7 years? I already have a hit on my life and I'm in solitary confinement, right? Because I won't give up my phones. So anyways, PJ kind of mitigated that because Turk was a Muslim, PJ was a Muslim, and Turk and PJ worked it out. And then PJ came to me and was like, this is what you have to do to keep the peace. But PJ had family up in Chicago that were gang members, and they had been acquiring rocket launchers, anti-aircraft missiles. We're talking hardcore gear that they had been acquiring. And he's like, when I get out of here, I'm staying out of Chicago because I don't want to be there because I don't want war. I don't want to bring war upon myself. And he's telling his cousin, he's like, man, you're like, eventually you're going to feel like you want to use that stuff.
These guys sound like pro 2A warriors.
They're more 2A than your typical redneck. Redneck's like, I want a machine gun. Here, fill out some forms. The cartels are like, I have a machine gun and I didn't fill out any forms. So it's very concerning. What's going on down in Mexico could easily, it literally takes the embedded gang members that cross the border here that have loyalties back home. It could instantaneously pop off, and it could pop off without any centralized direction. These are people who have just been conditioned do violence, do bad things, steal things. You know what I mean? This is scary. The other thing that Scott Bessent did last week was he cut off remittances outside of the country if you're on public support. So if you're in Section 8 housing, if you're on welfare, if you're on Obamacare, you cannot now wire transfer money or wire money outside the United States. This is currently, as we're talking, resulting in millions upon millions of remittances, money that people here send back home to Mexico specifically, gone, dried up.
Nice.
So if I have family that agrees to pay the cartel $5,000 to get me across the border, and then I have to pay $5,000 back to my family in Mexico that they then give to the cartel, and I cut off that money, what happens back home?
Two things happen. The money doesn't move, and now the people have no incentive to move.
That's one thing, and they have no extortion money to pay.
Right.
So now the cash flow for the gang members. Remember, Mencho is tied in with the worldwide scheme. That cartel's place in the big scheme has a way to launder money, has a way to hold reserves, has a way to draw upon those reserves when they've got to invest in a new tunnel under the wall, or whatever it is. Like, they don't live on day-to-day cash flow. They collect it and accumulate it. If Scott Bessent is using the SWIFT system and he's cutting off these bank accounts all around the world, he's cut off Maduro so they can't launder it through the nation state of Venezuela, and you just cut off remittances, all these gang members, do they know how to access those deep reserves? Do they have the password to the Bitcoin accounts where these billions of dollars are tucked away? Or are they now going to live on day-to-day cash flow, which has just been severely cut off? Is this not like shaping up to be craziness? Like, we at one hand, we're on the precipice of possibly seeing these international networks of organized crime breaking to the point to where they're localized, so your sheriff or local police force could deal with them. That's the problem. When the organized crime becomes bigger than your local sheriff's department, now you got to bring in the FBI. Well, if you're an international cartel, you're bigger than the FBI. You know what I mean? And so this has the potential to really disrupt these negative, nefarious power networks. But it also has the potential to cause untold amounts of damage because our southern border has been open for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, Donald Trump posted this about the Supreme Court decision last week. He says, the Supreme Court will, and then he goes, in parentheses, will be using lowercase letters for a while based on complete lack of respect. He spelled Supreme Court lowercase of the United States, accidentally and unwittingly gave me as president of the United States far more power and strength than I had prior to their ridiculous, dumb, and very intentionally divisive ruling. For one thing, I can use licenses to do absolutely terrible things to foreign countries, especially those countries that have been ripping us off for many decades. But incomprehensibly, according to the ruling, can't charge them a license fee. In all caps, but all licenses charge fees. Why can't the United States do so? You do a license to get a fee. The opinion doesn't explain that, but I know the answer. The court has also approved all other tariffs, of which there are many, and they can all be used in a much more powerful and obnoxious way, with legal certainty than the tariffs as initially used. Our incompetent Supreme Court did a great job for the wrong people, and for that they should be ashamed of themselves, but not the great three. The next thing you know, they will rule in favor of China and others who are making an absolute fortune on birthright citizenship by saying the 14th Amendment was not written to take care of the babies of slaves, which it was proven by the exact timing of the construction, filing, and ratification, which perfectly coincided with the end of the Civil War. How much better can you do than that? But this Supreme Court will find a way to come to the wrong conclusion. One that, again, will make China and various other nations much happy and rich. Let our Supreme Court keep making decisions that are so bad and deleterious to our future, the future of our nation. I have a job to do. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. Wowzers. Now, even in the Republican Rhino camp, which Senator Mike Braun from Indiana is, in my opinion, one of these Rhino Republicans. He's kind of like a Mike Pence 2.0. But there's one key difference between Mike Braun and Mike Pence. Mike Pence doesn't like tariffs for some reason. Go back to my speech on the Capitol steps that cost me 14 months in prison. There were two allegations that I laid at the feet of Mike Pence. One, that he was in bed with China, and two, that he is a bad person involved with nefarious island type activities, right? So this is Mike Braun talking about the success of these tariffs and bringing back jobs.
In your state, though, you said you believed this theory that it might actually help bring back some of those manufacturing jobs.
Tariffs.
Did you see that it did any of that?
Yes, it was starting. I mean, the amount of investment that's coming back to this country that whooshed out of it, that created chronic trade deficits, that needs to be rectified. And you can do that through tariffs. You can do it through trade negotiations. And we were going the wrong way for a long time.
In your state, though,
So
you said you believed
we were
this
going
theory
the wrong
that
way for a wrong time. Indiana's right in the middle of the Rust Belt. You know, and I don't even know that they were ever one of the big states in the Rust Belt. So the fact that he's able to say, yeah, jobs are coming back, and he's sitting next to Mike DeWine, who's also saying the same things. So as far as we, the people, as far as states are concerned, tariffs are good. Why would the Supreme Court decide against America? Right? As Kavanaugh said, because the Trump president didn't check the right statutory box, we're going to put billions of dollars of revenue at risk and potentially all these trade deals. Seems kind of like, what's going on here?
You know, there's some Democrats that check some boxes and they're doing just fine.
Apparently Democrats can't even find their birth certificate. So I don't know. Let's see. Just me _Pete in Pacific Northwest. My friend is in lockdown down there. I know Mike Benz took a trip down there, and on his way down, he goes, you know, I'll return when they clear the charges or drop the charges, you know, like a joke. Flew to Mexico. And the day he gets down there, this whole thing pops off. He's locked in his hotel room.
Oh, no.
But he's like taking pictures from his hotel of all the smoke. He's like, this is not cool. And of course, Mike Benz is like, I'm in the middle of some State Department deep state coup, you know. Okay, so back to the chats here. Just me, my friend is in lockdown there. John Atakis says they hit Costco. They got Costco. You know it's serious when they take out Costco. Carlitos, good morning. Ponyboy says his cartel, Minchos, was way more ruthless than the Zetas. For Razor, multiple cities and even multiple states, airports shut down, freeways blocked. It's hard to see. Yeah, and it's at our doorstep. Canada has the potential to be the next Ukraine, and Mexico is our Gaza. You know, I mean, this is no bueno, okay? John Atakis, they burned down OXXO stores like 7-Eleven, blocks freeways, and stopped burning cars. Yeah, and this morning I woke up and there were pictures from different locations where the cartel has got excavators out and they're digging up the road. So vehicles, like normal vehicles can get in and out. So they're
just cutting off right away.
They're blockading their territory for control. Imagine being a peasant then. I guarantee you Mexico's still going to try to take taxes from them this year, even though they can't even fix the potholes in the road that are blocking off access to the rest of the country. Oh, man. A Trump impersonator, or Trump himself, called into C-SPAN to complain about the tariff decision. Do you know that Donald Trump used to call into C-SPAN as John Barron?
No.
Yeah. So he used to call in under the surname or the pseudonym John Barron. Well, someone under the name of John Barron called into C-SPAN to complain about the tariff ruling.
John in Virginia, Republican. Let's hear from you.
Well, this is John Barron, and this is the worst decision you've ever had in your life, practically. Jack's going to agree with me, right? But this is a terrible decision. And you have Hakeem Jeffries, he's a dope, and you have Chuck Schumer, who can't cook a cheeseburger. Of course these people are happy. But true Americans will not be happy. And you have the woman earlier, I assume she's a woman, she's a Democrat, but she said she's disgraced. She's devastated.
All right, John.
This.
We'll go to Tester, who's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
So everybody's on the fence as if this was a Trump impersonator that you call in under James Barron, or if that's Trump himself.
That's definitely an impersonator.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. That Hakeem Jeffries, he's a dope. Jesse Waters kind of summarized this entire tariff debacle with the Supreme Court the best. It's just what happens when you put 9 lawyers in a room.
This is why we hate lawyers. You put 9 of them in a room, they can't agree on anything. There are 5 laws that say the president can use tariffs. So the president picks one, uses tariffs, gets sued, and the Supreme Court can't agree if he picked the right law. 3 said he did, 6 said he didn't. They all agree the president has the power to use a tariff, but 6 of them say he's got to pick a different law. So the president's just going to pick a different law and put the tariffs back on. That's what happened today. The 3 justices who backed Trump were Kavanaugh, Alito, and Thomas. Amy Coney Barrett, Gorsuch, Roberts all sided with the Democrats.
I'm ashamed of certain members of the court, absolutely ashamed for not having.
Hey, what do you think about the blue instead of the green?
You mean for our backdrop?
Yeah. Well, let's just keep watching Trump here.
Encouraged to do what's right for our country. In fact, they're just being fools and lapdogs for the rhinos and the radical left Democrats.
This is why we hate lawyers. You put 9 of them in a room, they can't agree on anything. There are 5 laws that say the president can.
They've got all kinds of stuff that they can do to justify
blue
tariffs.
Is good.
But they went, oh, you like that? I'm back in the corner so tight now. I'm right on top of this stuff. You like the blue?
Oh yeah. Precious.
Oh yeah, that does look a little cleaner, doesn't it? What people don't know is we have green ceiling lights, so like your wall is green. All right, so the tariff thing. Scott Bessent was on with Maria Bartiromo yesterday. Yesterday's Sunday news shows weren't that good. There wasn't.
Before we go on, you know what I was going to say is that this kind of a ruling, when these things happen, all this does is it gives an opportunity for media and especially outlets like, The View or whatever to just go crazy and start talking about, well, he's a felon, and nobody likes these rules.
Yeah. Oh, because he's a felon who made them.
Right. Or just whatever, they just take it over the top.
Take it over the top. Yeah. One of the things I don't really love is Donald Trump turns everything into Democrats versus Republicans.
Yes. I don't like that either, because it also seems to it buoys up this idea that we have these 2 groups that are just, diametrically opposed and we're always at each other's throats. And it's not the case. The 2 parties are just there for, like you say, to grab power and to throw us back and forth like a ping pong ball.
Yeah, it's a Hegelian dialectic. So it's frustrating when Trump turns the Supreme Court into because I was appointed by a Republican, I always have to side with Republicans. Well, that's why we gave them lifetime appointment.
Right.
It's just because sometimes they have to decide against their own party because they're power hungry.
Right.
That's like they're the check on the power grab. So on one hand, it's like, well, I definitely don't think Supreme Court justices should be defined by party affiliation. But at the same time, the Supreme Court justices should go out of their way not to be party affiliated. Did you know the Democrats never break vote? The appointed Democrats on the Supreme Court, they never break their vote. But the Republicans do regularly. So it's almost like a virtue that only we hold. And I think that's the problem.
Yes. And that's why you're always mad at me for projecting my goodness.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And it's like, on one hand, I hear it from Donald Trump, and my goodness goes, oh, we don't want the Supreme Court to be partisan. And then my practical side is like, we're way past bipartisanship. Yeah. Somebody's got to lose and somebody has to win.
Exactly.
And when it comes to tariffs, remember, strategically for the United States, there were billions and trillions of dollars. According to Catherine Austin Fitts, $51 trillion went out the back door. Okay. That money mostly went overseas and got laundered back here. Let me give you an example. Mike Huckabee had an interview with Tucker Carlson. And Tucker Carlson brought up the aid that we give to Israel. And Mike Huckabee instantly was like, well, we give that aid to Israel, and they turn around and they buy weapons from the United States. And he starts talking about a factory in Little Rock, Arkansas that made the bullets that Israel bought. And I'm like, okay, so we are taking brass and copper and saltpeter out of our hemisphere, out of our earth, and we are exchanging it to you for dollar bills, which we printed with no asset backing other than my promise to pay when you bring it back as an IOU. And then you turned around and took real extracted resources out of our continent for nothing. You don't think there's a problem here? So the tariffs are to try to knock off some of that totally unbacked inflated dollars before they make it back into our financial ecosystem, driving the prices of everything through the roof. Because too many dollars are chasing too many goods, because we literally printed dollars, gave it to our adversaries or other countries in general, and oh sure, they turned around and bought stuff from our factories. That's what hollowing out means. We're giving away something for toilet paper, for useless paper that's not backed by an asset or a commodity. It's backed by the people's promise to pay. That's why tariffs are so important. And that's why Scott Bessent, as the Treasury Secretary, who does understand this, unlike all the pundits on TV, explains there will be no reduction in tariffs. They've immediately pivoted to the new tariff regime.
So let me tell you what's going to happen. First, this ruling was a very narrow ruling in terms of the president's ability to use IEEPA to collect revenues. The Supreme Court said the president can put in a full embargo, but he cannot collect $1. So the president still has the most draconian measure for negotiations, and that under Sections 232, Sections 301, we're already collecting substantial tariff revenue. The IEEPA tariffs are going to be replaced in 3 days with the Section 122. And I can tell you at Treasury, contrary to what the Committee for an Irresponsible Budget, or whatever it's called, says, tariff revenue will be unchanged this year and will be unchanged in the future.
Yeah. So they're pretty adamant. We are going to keep collecting tariffs. But now the question arises, what do you do with the tariffs that were paid? Because companies have already had lawsuits filed to try to collect back those tariffs if the Supreme Court decided against the IEEPA tariffs. So their attitude in the Supreme Court was, I don't know, figure it out. And Trump's attitude is, screw you guys. Like, yeah, you guys are going to have to figure this out forever, but our default position isn't going to be refund these tariffs. In fact, anybody who's asking for a refund, he's going to dial up the tariffs. And don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you hear Trump threatening cutting off everything to use the Supreme Court decision as leverage. Oh, China, you don't want to play nice, or you want your tariffs back? Okay, we'll do a complete license pulling on all steel coming out of China, or all whatever, right? It could be instantaneous like that.
Yeah, there just won't be any trade.
And unfortunately, this is a very narrow window, because the more Trump does this, the more other nations like Brazil and China agree to do trade in their own currencies and bypass our currency completely. Right. So it's like, You have to set all this up now, try to get those dollars back home, chop off eliminate as much of them out as the pool as you can before the entire system recalibrates and is written on the backbone of Bitcoin is what they are telling us is happening.
Yes.
Now, how many people, again, back to the topic of remittances getting sent back to the United States and foreign-born workers that are authorized to work legally here? There was a huge controversy, and I think we talked about this a little bit last week. Maybe we did on Friday, but
maybe.
Mandami did we need snow shovelers. We need snow shovelers. So come volunteer to snow shovel. And what did you have to bring to come snow shovel? 2 forms of ID. So there's a big problem here. We know that 15 million illegals came across the border, but how many of them are actually authorized to work? How many of those illegals that came into our country could actually go help Mandami shovel snow? Well, here's the answer. This is from back when Doge was going through the government. And they discovered a huge amount of people who cross the border have already been granted citizenship.
Gave a work authorization document to illegals just 5 months after they filed for asylum. That document allowed them to work while they waited to hear whether their asylum request had been accepted or denied. So they could work as an illegal, knowing it would take years before their case was heard. The Immigration Department mailed them a social security number. No interview, no proof of identity. Just put it in the mail. Here's your number. In 2021, Doge says 270,000 new aliens were issued social security numbers. 590,000 in 2022, 964,000 in 2023, and 2.1 million in 24, right before Biden left office. Doge also discovered that 1.3 million aliens are now receiving Medicaid. Millions received driver's licenses. Some registered to vote, and Doge says some actually did vote. Try and square that against Democrat claims that Musk is destroying Social Security and cutting Medicaid. He's not destroying. He's weeding out people who don't qualify. Who is really guilty of misinformation in this case? It is not Elon Musk.
I mean, you see some of the crazy stuff, like where money from FEMA, which is meant, FEMA is an agency that's meant to take care of Americans in distress. And a bunch of their money was being sent to pay for luxury hotels in New York for illegal immigrants. And that was happening even after the president was elected, and even after he signed an executive order saying that needs to stop. So we actually made sure that money did stop going, because it's outrageous that American taxpayer money is spent on luxury hotels for illegals. But you have to say, why was that being done? That was because the Democrats are trying to import voters, basically.
Yes.
And that's what it all boils down to. Import voters, send them to New York City. And then when New York needs a little help, like shoveling snow, a lot of those people, unless they were one of the lucky ones that got sent a Social Security card, they couldn't actually go and work for the city of New York to just shovel snow.
There's been this controversy over the snow laborers and the sort of what some see as onerous need to have documentation. Can you just talk about if that's new and what you make of the controversy?
This is all long-standing. This is a long-standing program and long-standing requirements, and this is a way that New Yorkers get paid to shovel snow in assistance with the city's response to a winter storm event. Federal law requires that employers get authorization and documentation to pay people for their work. We are not allowed to just cut checks to individuals for their work. And these are the policies that we've had in place, but I understand that for many, it's the first time that they've ever heard about it.
This is coming from a city that has sanctuary policies that won't allow federal officers into their jails to collect criminals, even though there is that whole, federal supremacy clause, right? This is a city that ignores at will federal regulation, federal law, employment law, sanctuary city law, immigration law, Security and Exchange Commission law. When they convicted Donald Trump, you literally had the what was it called? The election committee or whatever that said Trump didn't break any rules. Nah, we're just going to assume he did. Right? These guys ignore federal law. But when it comes to paying the snow shovelers, we have to follow federal law.
We can't just pay people for their work.
We can't just federal laws. You can't just pay people for their work. You can't just hire illegal immigrants. Are you serious? There was a hilarious meme that went out that had a picture of people voting in New York, and it was all these migrants, turbans, you know, like Kwanzaa outfits, all voting. And then when it came time for the snow shoveling volunteers, and it had 2 forms of ID, it was like no ID, 2 forms of ID. There was a single white guy holding his own shovel. It was like, you know, this is the parody that we have become. Now, don't worry, right? I know it's confusing. I know it's hard to know what to do. I mean, if you're a minority, you clearly aren't getting educated. You're clearly not intelligent. But don't worry, Gavin Newsom sympathizes with you. He's just as dumb as you are.
I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to impress upon you. I'm like you. I'm no better than you. You know, I'm a 960 SAT guy. And, you know, and I'm not trying to offend anyone, you know, trying to act all there if you got 940. But literally a 960 SAT guy. I cannot, you've never seen me read a speech because I cannot read a speech. Maybe the wrong business.
Poor kids are just as smart as black kids.
I'm not trying to impress you.
Okay, I don't know how I should feel about that you're as dumb as minorities, or that you're saying minorities are dumb. I'm not exactly sure which direction I should be offended. That you're admitting that you're leading the 4th largest economy in the world and you're a retard, or that you're leading retards. I'm not sure exactly where I should take offense on this one. Ron, what do we got here? We got some coffee for the morning?
Oh, man, I hope so. We need something to get us out of this. Oh, yes. So you still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold, dark roast that hits hard, the smooth, medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin-free and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A father strong enough to strip your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions in a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble. Wonder if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does.
So get your coffee today. That's great. Okay, so we've got some interesting stuff here. Let's show this. We're going to talk a little bit about the control grid. We're going to talk about aliens. Okay, these are both awesome topics because this is a conspiracy show, right? Which just means it's the news 5 years early, right? Is that what we've determined now? Okay, so if you look at this little image here, it's just kind of an interesting graphic. And what this is, it's the Earth rotating, and every one of these lights is a node. This is a Bitcoin node. So this is where the Bitcoin ledger is held. Every single one of these lights has the entire worldwide Bitcoin ledger on it, and it updates instantaneously. So if you want to knock out Bitcoin, you know, when they're like, if the electricity goes away, Bitcoin will go away. If even one of those nodes, the light stays on, the Bitcoin ledger stays intact. And if the lights all go off and then turn back on, the Bitcoin ledger will instantaneously be exactly where it was when the power went off. So it is a decentralized form of digital value. It's digital gold. Okay. So as far as the digital world's concerned, Bitcoin is like really the equivalent of gold in the digital world. Okay. Additionally, it has the added bonus of being the framework by which financial transactions can happen. It has the ability to completely replace the SWIFT wire transfer system and the banking system in with regards to how credit cards work, Visa, MasterCard, and the exchange. Bitcoin no longer requires a third-party verifier to verify the exchange. Bitcoin itself verifies the exchange, okay? So all these nodes here, if you notice, they're concentrated over the Western world, Europe, and the United States of America, primarily. Ed Dowd, who I have a lot of respect for, and it's odd because some of his predictions have been not happened, right? Like the housing crash. But again, when you factor in the variables, the political factors, you know, if you print enough money, you can prevent a crash this year. Okay. So Ed Dowd, some of that stuff's been there, but he's been really key on understanding the excess death problems, where these super cancers are coming from, all that kind of stuff. But he's ultimately an economy guy, right? Economics guy. And one of the things he's looking at is the control grid and the digital currency and just kind of trending this direction. And he has kind of a cynical perspective but it's one that we really do need to keep in mind.
What the stock market is telling you, the most highly valued companies are AI companies. AI is going to be, if you want to be cynical, which I am, the market is telling you that the most valuable stocks are the ones that are building the digital prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the only growth in the country at the moment is the building of the digital prison. Think about that for a second.
Jeez.
That's it.
That is
the growth in the sectors are building our future enslavement. That's where the last bit of growth is coming from.
The digital panopticon, the digital gulag.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. The states are tax farms, and I guess they're just trying to adopt digital technology, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, hey, Ron, guess what our salvation economically is? What does Trump say it is? We gotta beat China to AI. And what's the purpose of AI?
So
total and complete liberation by democratizing information, or an absolute total control grid.
We have to imprison ourselves before they imprison us.
Yes, build the wall to keep us in or them out. I'm not sure which. So Glenn Beck had Whitney Webb on, and they talk about the growth of this control grid, right? This financial digital infrastructure. I always have to refer to Genesis chapter 50. I will take what is meant for evil and turn it to good. If we, the people, can wrap our heads around what's happening, things flip quick, right? We take whatever tool they give us and we use it for our own purposes. Great. You want to track us? What does that also do? It allows us to connect online. Once we meet in person and set our phones down, we just beat the system. Does that make sense?
Yep.
We just used what you did to enslave us to help connect us. And as soon as we can put the phone down, we're free. You know what I mean? And we found each other. So there's a good and a bad to all of this. We as peasants need to recognize this because we're going to have to use these tools. AI is here, right? And so here we go. Whitney Webb and Glenn Beck.
Who worked very, very, very high up at Citibank. And he told me around 2008, he said, Glenn, don't worry about the financial system. And I'm like, And he said, we're never going to go broke. I mean, do you know how much just the national parks are worth? And I looked at him and said, are you seriously telling me that we should commoditize the national parks? And he said, it's going to happen. And I wonder now if this is what he was talking about, if it was just a digital, not actually selling them, it's just a digital commoditization of our parks.
Yeah. So apply this now to the phrase that we all heard during the COVID era, you'll own nothing and be happy. Well,
yes.
There's certain people that want to own everything, and that includes things that have never been able to be owned before that were considered things like the public commons, like rivers, lakes, the ocean itself, natural forests, all sorts of it. These people want to put all of that into the financial system, fractionalize it, tokenize it, and sell pieces of it around. Use it to speculate on. I mean, it's very bonkers. So, yeah, and so this is just one aspect of the digital currency play. Obviously, there's a lot more than that just going on as well. I would argue that a lot of this push, particularly in the U.S., for dollar stablecoins supposedly being better than a central bank digital currency, also falls into this paradigm we talked about earlier of moving from the public to the private of the public-private partnership, because a lot of these stablecoin issuers, if the big concerns about CBDCs was that they're seizable, they're surveillable, and they're programmable. Well, all of those three things also can apply to stablecoins. The only difference is that you would have a private company issue it and control it. But we've seen time and again how a lot of...
So I always want to remind people, this is a phrase that I coined way back in season 1, 5 years ago. It doesn't matter if the boot's coming from the left or the right, it's still a boot on my neck. What is the difference functionally between communism and fascism? One does it with a state uniform and one does it with a corporate uniform, but they're still going to put the boot on your neck.
These private entities are willing to do that. when contacted, just look at how Bank of America behaved with January 6th, people accused of wrongdoing on that day, for example. They have no qualms in doing that and engaging.
I find it interesting. I just want to point out one thing. As she mentioned, Bank of America on January 6th canceling people's accounts. My accounts got canceled, and I never hear Wells Fargo in that conversation. It was Citibank, it was Wells Fargo, it was JP Morgan, and it was Bank of America, and it was, what's the other big bank? There's the 5 Federal Reserve member banks. Those are the banks that cut people off. We could go get a credit union. We could open up an Old Glory account, a private regional bank, right? But the 5 Fed member banks, those are Chase, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citi. I can't remember that. Anyways, those are the banks that deplatformed. It wasn't one, it was all of them. It was the Fed system itself that eliminated January 6ers and Donald Trump from the ability to have accounts there, period. So it was much bigger than just a bank.
In those type of activities. And the biggest dollar stablecoin issuer, Tether, which just hired Bo Hines from the White House, they have openly said that they are a close partner of the U.S. government for dollar hegemony globally, and have uploaded the FBI, the Secret Service, and other aspects of the U.S. government onto its platform directly, and have seized tethers, from people just because, the government told them to. And this was during the Biden administration. So they obviously are willing to do that under any administration. And it's essentially functioning as a de facto public-private partnership, even though we're being told it's much better than a CBDC. But in terms of its impacts on civil liberties, that's not necessarily true. So again, vigilance is important here.
Your impact on civil liberties doesn't change because, again, the boot on my neck from the left or right is the same boot. My rights are being violated just because you're doing it under the name of Amazon or Facebook or whatever. It doesn't matter if it's the sheriff of Nottingham. Get your boot off my neck. You know what I mean? Like, that's where we're heading. What's the impact of this, Ron? What's the good side and the bad side?
Well, I always
what would be the benefit of tokenizing national parks versus not doing it? What's the pros and cons here? What are our betters, our leaders, the elite? What's the math they're doing to push us into this control grid?
Well, I know why they want to do that, because they're running out of things to attach bonds to, and they need to explode the volume of money that they want to issue. So that's going to help them issue more money. So that's one thing. I don't know. I can't say that that's a good thing.
I think the biggest thing to understand is the debt is not designed to be pay off. It's designed to expand.
Yes.
So I've had this rant, the gold bugs. Oh, we turned on a gold standard. Let's pay off the national debt. Let's balance the budget. You're retarded. You don't even understand the system. It's fiat. It cannot be paid off. It cannot be paid off. It was never designed to be paid off. It's an ever expanding debt system.
I remember I was probably about 40 when I figured out that we would never pay off the debt. It took me that long to figure that out. It's a hard concept for people to understand.
What's worse is, what do we even owe? We didn't lend anything.
To who?
To who? You just printed money, gave it to Israel, and they bought bullets with it.
Right.
So what am I supposed to pay off? What am I getting back when I redeem my dollar? Nothing.
Right.
It's so what do they need to do? Increase the balance sheet to offset the debt so it looks like a smaller percentage.
Right. But if we don't have
110% of GDP, but if we monetize Yellowstone and Yosemite and the Mississippi River and we tokenize them, then our balance sheet goes way higher and we can borrow more credit to keep paying.
It's making up for the fact that our population is not growing, our assets are not growing like they need to stably, and we just need another way to grow our economy.
So if from the government's perspective, specifically...
And this is a lazy way to do it. This is a very lazy way to do it.
Yes. So from the government's perspective, who thinks they have to pay off this debt on behalf of the people, back to the people, I know, it's staggering.
They're not thinking that, though, Taylor. They're just thinking we can commoditize this and increase the volume. They're not thinking about paying anything off.
Of course, but they need to extract more value to pay the debt, right, to keep the game going. Well, RFK during his campaign warned us specifically against this control grid, the dream of every totalitarian. Okay, so this is coming. This is what they're building. Thank goodness RFK is in the cabinet, and Trump and some of these people who I do believe oppose it, but they can't stop it. So how do we harness it?
They are putting in place all of these technological mechanisms for control we've never seen before. It's been the ambition of every totalitarian state from the beginning of mankind to control every aspect of behavior, of conduct, of thought, and to obliterate dissent. The mechanisms are being put in place that will make it so none of us can run and none of us can hide. Within 5 years, we're going to see 415,000 low orbit satellites. Bill Gates said his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day. They're putting in 5G to harvest our data and control our behavior. Digital currency that will allow them to punish us from a distance and cut off our food supply. Vaccine passports. You have a series of rights. As flawed as our government is, you can still go out and go to a bar. You can go to a sporting event. You can get on a bus or an airplane and you can travel. You have certain freedom. You can get educated, etc. The minute they hand you that vaccine passport, every right that you have is transformed into a privilege contingent upon your obedience to arbitrary government dictates.
Bingo.
It will make you a slave.
It will make you a slave.
And speaking of that, we were just talking about Tether and this report they were talking about. They got into Tether and the FBI and the whoever, all the three-letter agencies are already connected to Tether. And we do ads for Tether.
Yeah.
And we do ads for coffee. You know, I'll do an ad for coffee. I don't drink coffee, but people can make their own decisions. But, you know, when we read an ad for Tether and then there's three-letter agencies that can go in there and take your account. It's like, oh, I don't know if I want to read those ads anymore, but I guess we will.
Yeah, we're going to do it anyways. I got you to read a Blue Chew ad one time. We'll do whatever it takes. I don't care. You're not buying my loyalty with 30 cents. I'm just checking off I read an ad this month.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? The control grid is coming. Let's just assume it's coming.
Yep.
The two-sided part of the control grid is it's a window into them. Okay. If everybody's on the blockchain, the government is too. So if they keep it an open ledger, then we can hold them accountable just like they hold us accountable. So that's a tool. Okay. And then, of course, when you hold the government accountable, then they want to loosen things up a little bit.
Well, I thought the whole point of having a Bitcoin and a digital currency was you could be, you know, on your own. It was the Wild West. Nobody's going to be looking over your back. But then I hear, you know, the FBI can just be embedded into Tether. It's like, well, yeah, what's the value then? You know,
the way I look at that is this: it's cash. If I have cash, I'm not in the bank. The FBI and the IRS are embedded in the banks, but I can still have cash. Okay, I can have Bitcoin and just not have it in a custodian that they control.
Oh, okay.
Wallet, and then once I pay, yeah, it's on the ledger. But as long as I'm paying from a wallet that I haven't connected my Know Your Client case KYC on, then it's like having a bag of
This is just me not understanding the technology, I guess.
You have to be vigilant because if you're not, you're just going to walk in and open a bank account.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to walk into Tether, River, you know, Stablecoin, Robinhood, and you're going to JP Morgan, Fidelity, you're going to open an account. That's no different than just opening another savings account with the central bank.
So pick your wallet wisely.
Pick your wallet wisely. Yep. Carlite says, fake ass CGI of our globe and our resident flat earther. Carlite, it's just the only way to show them. I don't know, right? But yeah, you're probably right. That definitely was CGI. Ponyboy says, even Michael Rappaport flipped on Mandami. I know, Michael Rappaport is hilarious. It's like he got hit with the common sense stick. You know, all of a sudden he's been Trump bad. Now he's like, yeah, deport these immigrants. He's totally flipped. Okay, so let's look at this. Fraser says there's another version of NFTs, which is non-fungible tokens. Own a park, but the essence of the park, not the park itself. Well, that's no difference than having a deed to your house. That's the essence of your house, but ownership is denoted by occupancy. Okay?
Right.
So yeah, the problem with the tokenization, she's like, we'll tokenize the rivers, we'll tokenize the oceans. Imagine if the North Banks gets tokenized. So now every fisherman, you can just go out and fish, but you owe a payment to that token because you took a resource out of that area.
Right.
That's underwritten. It's owned by the token. You know what I mean? And who owns the token? I don't know. Whoever bought shares in it. It would be like, I can go to the national park if I have shares in Facebook because Facebook bought the park. Does that make sense? It's one of those deals. It's like all of a sudden it's a whole new licensing and regulation regime. It's just through a different nexus point.
You don't just pay a little extra tithing.
It's through the nexus of taxation. Huh?
I was making a joke. So you just don't pay an extra little bit of tithing?
This right here, if you go to the screen here, Ron, this is a CIA handbook that was recently declassified. And Mike Benz posted on this. This is hilarious. He goes, this is effing insane. And Lauren Southern, who's Lauren Southern? Lauren Southern is a influencer, author, and woman PR crisis. She is one of these conservative influencers. I believe she's from Australia originally.
Okay.
Well, the CIA, this is their handbook. Okay. Radicalization and disengagement pathways among female, white, racially, and ethnically motivated violent extremist sympathizers.
Okay.
So one, entry, becoming involved. This is a real person, Lauren Southern, that's being featured in a real CIA handbook on white females that are white, racially, ethnically motivated, violent extremists and sympathizers.
Okay.
That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful for someone who promotes, you know, nuclear families and you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a mouthful. During the entry phase, the movement appeals to the individual's unmet psychological needs for empowerment, enrichment, fulfillment, and certainty. Like all humans, social networks typically facilitate entry into the group according to academic and press reporting and reality. In 2015, white REM movement, REMVE sympathizer Lauren Southern, was struggling through college when she published her first viral video titled, "Why I'm Not a Feminist," and later dropped out of school, according to a U.S. press report suggesting that her lack of academic success probably prompted a desire for purpose and certainty. Or she realized she wasn't a feminist, didn't need the education, because where did she belong, Ron? Barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen is what my Uncle Bob would say. Okay? We do not categorize Southern as a white REMV. However, we assess that her espousal of narratives has contributed to the reach of some white REMV ideologies being involved. So she posted a white power sign, right? White power, the OK sign. In this phase, being involved, the individual engages in extremist terrorist activities, and personal motivations are assumed by a sense of responsibility to the greater benefit of the group. Terrorist groups and extremist movements use common ideological belief structures to maximize group unity and justify violence, according to academic and press reporting. Where's the manual that talks about DEI and you know what I'm saying? Like, is it? I feel like they're describing the political correct movement and or the Catholic Church. You know what I mean? Like, is it just any group that identifies as anything other than subservient slaves to the state they consider?
And this means white power?
White power. Yeah, white power.
I did not know
the
that.
W and the P. Oh, yeah, this was the big Trump would do this, and they'd go, oh, he's dog whistling to the white power crowd.
What?
Okay. It's hard. I'm sorry.
Throwing up your gang signs.
I'm already on your list, but I'm disengaging, okay? All right. With each subsequent video, Southern gained popularity within the white REMVE movement. Southern asserted in a documentary that black South Africans are as responsible for apartheid as white South Africans, according to a U.S. press report and reporting. Okay. In disengaging, this is the exit phase for a member of an extremist or terrorist group. During this phase, disillusionment with the group often motivates an individual to leave. They call that black pilling. The social contracts and the promise of landing spot outside the group typically help facilitate a departure, according to academic and press reporting. In November 2016, after enduring a hostile criticism and unwanted sexual advances from men, Southern posted a video defending herself for being 22 years old without being married or having children, according to U.S. press report, highlighting how some women may become disillusioned after experience the violent misogyny that is pervasive throughout the white REM movement. I don't think the violence she was experiencing was coming from terrorist sympathizers. It's coming from the left. Okay, that's interesting. So the CIA would consider Lauren Southern a violent, radical extremist. It's no wonder they put me on the no-fly list and debanked me just for going to January 6th. It's no wonder that they put conservative Catholics listed as terrorists and observe them in mass. It's no wonder. Oh, did you know fundamental Mormons also got added to the list too? So they were being fundamental Mormons. Yeah, they were also being added to the list.
This is like the Jeff, whatever his name
No,
is.
the definition of fundamental Mormons. This is interesting. Mainstream Mormons don't understand this.
Yeah.
Fundamental Mormonism is premised around the belief that the individual can have their own unique connection to God. Traditional Mormonism is the prophet is the intermediary. So in the Catholic Church, the Pope is the vicar of Christ. In the current Mormon Church, follow the prophet, he knows the way. Okay, so he becomes the intermediary. So as long as you're in the mainstream, if the prophet says get the vaccine, it's a blessing, even though it's made with aborted fetal tissue, or if the prophet says abandon polygamy, or if the prophet says blacks can have the priesthood, boom. Fundamentals want to go pray about it, okay, and come to their own conclusion. So that leads to schisms, because fundamentals are the ones who lead every breakoff, whether it's a breakoff over polygamy, a breakoff over blacks in the priesthood, a breakoff over vaccines. So that's the dividing line. The fundamental, go back to Joseph Smith, go get your own connection. The traditional, follow Brigham Young into the wilderness.
Okay.
There's a clear divide between the two.
I did not know this, and you just helped me out. Thank you.
Yes. There are a lot of fundamentals that still are active, right? But they're considered the extremists because those are the ones that don't want to put on a mask, don't want to take the vaccine. You know what I'm saying? Like they kind of have a different guiding light, so to speak.
I guess I'm a little extreme.
More people are than you would think when you use the Lawrence Southern standard of extremism. Wanting to be a mommy is just unbearably too much for us. Okay, so how do we take back control of the system? An obvious answer would be, I don't know, maybe free and fair elections. So here's Mike Lee on with Maria Bartiromo, because the Save America Act now has 50 sponsors in the Senate, which means if all the sponsors vote for their own bill, JD Vance can come in and break the tie, 51 votes. Boom! We have taken a huge stride in securing the election. Okay? Huge stride. However, John Thune won't schedule the dang thing. So what the Republicans want right now is to restore the filibuster. Now, we've been talking about getting rid of the filibuster. Now the strategy has changed because we're not using the filibuster. What we're using is a procedural filibuster. If we don't have 60 votes to get something out of committee, we don't let it go to the floor to avoid an actual talking filibuster. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So they project that if we don't get it out of committee, just assume we're going to talk till the sun burns out. Okay. That's not ever going to be the case, right? What's the worst thing they can do? Talk for a month? Is letting them talk endlessly on C-SPAN worth it if we could secure our elections wrong? Probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the game. Restore the filibuster. Let them spend 5 or 6 days or a month, for all we care, talking about why every immigrant should be allowed to vote. And then eventually we'll get our 50 sponsors plus JD Vance and we'll pass the bill. Don't even get rid of the filibuster. Leave it intact. But let's actually play the game, right? So that's the plan that Mike Lee's presented.
Well, I believe Senator Thune is going to bring it forward. I believe he's going to allow us to get a vote. What remains to be seen is exactly what procedure we will use. But I hope in that process, I'll continue to make the case to him and to my other colleagues that filibustering senators should be required to speak. If they don't want this law, let them explain that at length to the American people until they are no longer able to do so.
So should we not expect a talking filibuster until the Department of Homeland Security reopens?
That's my expectation. It's hard to imagine a scenario in which we would begin a process, particularly one that might involve, and I hope will involve, a talking filibuster. We've got to get DHS funded first.
Okay. Senator.
Okay, let's get them funded. What do we got, Ron? Do we have a Tether wallet?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do this one. Pow, pow, pow. Give me the words. Give me the words.
I know, it's so glitchy.
Some reason it's not.
All right, while you get that going, I'm just going to keep talking. Okay, we're going to transition into this Tucker Carlson interview with Mike Huckabee, because a huge international incident was caused by this interview. You got one? What about that one right above there?
I tried all of them.
It's weird how some of them duplicate. So Tucker Carlson and Mike Huckabee caused a very serious international incident. And the whole Tucker Carlson has now completely exposed two leading conservatives, completely exposed Ted Cruz and completely exposed Mike Huckabee. And what he's done is he's just exposed their logical fallacies in their support of Israel. Okay? And I don't want to make this a why we shouldn't support or why we should support Israel episode. But one of the points in the interview that Mike Huckabee made was that why we should be going to war with Iran. He's like, well, who helps Iran? China helps Iran. He's been on this, they're in bed with Iran. And Tucker Carlson said, you know who else is in bed with Iran? Larry Fink and the president of all of our major corporations. So why would I care more about Iran based on their alliance with China and not Google and their alliance with China? Does that make sense? Oh, well, we can't bomb Google. Exactly. Right. There's no money in that. And so just totally exposed him for things like, okay, after World War II, we did away with blood and land, right? You no longer have a right to land because of blood ties. Not Susan Rice, the other black, she was the Secretary of State under Bush, Condoleezza Rice. Condoleezza Rice gave a speech where she talked about the three horsemen of the apocalypse. She's a globalist. She says nationalism, populism, and it's called land blood or blood land ties. Basically, you're tied to the land. Those are the three horsemen of the apocalypse. And that's what they sought to get rid of after World War II. That's why the Ottoman Empire got carved up and you end up with Iraq with Christians, Shiites, and Sunnis, and with that other, the specific sect of Kurds or whatever, the Gnostics, all in one nation state. Like, what are we doing here? There's a couple other circles that could have had cohesive groups, but we broke them up. This was absolutely intentional. Absolutely intentional. And why was it intentional? Because the United States Empire and the Russian Empire are melting pots. Russia actually has like 47 or 27 different ethnicities within their empire. So they figured out how to be a big tent for all the different, sects. And so that was the objective. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And there's one huge exception to this entire scheme. The Balfour Agreement in 1948, where we created Israel under the guise that they have a right to the land. Why, Ron? Why do the Jews have a right to that area? Because of blood, because they were there, because Abraham gave it to them. Does that make sense? And so he's like, well, Abraham gave it to these people. And Tucker Carlson just goes, yeah, but Netanyahu's from Poland. Most of the Jews that are living in Israel have no genetic ties to Israel. They come from other places. Their lineage was converted at other points in time. They did not come out of Israel. Who are natives to Israel? Who are the sons of Abraham that have not left the square miles that are of that land? The Palestinians. So it's like he exposed the hypocrisy in that thought process. He's like, he asked Mike Huckabee, would you be willing to genetic test everybody in Israel to see who actually has a right to be here? We can do that now. We've unlocked the genome. And Mike Huckabee was like, I can't even comprehend the question you're asking. He's like, you're the one who said they had a genetic right to the land. You'd think maybe we could, I don't know, test some genetics. So this led to an additional part of the conversation where Tucker Carlson said, based on that premise that they're promised all this land in the Bible, from the Euphrates to the Nile, was given to Abraham's descendants, the Jews, and they can have that land. When Tucker Carlson pointed this out, this was Mike Huckabee's response.
Appealed to Genesis. Genesis 15 says it's Abram, it's pre-Abraham, it's Abram, receives from God the news that his descendants will inherit the land. And you tell me as the theologian if I'm getting this wrong, but from the Euphrates to the Nile. I think that's right. And that would include like basically the entire Middle East. That would be the Levant. So that would be Israel, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon. It would also be big parts of Saudi Arabia and Iraq. It would be, I'm
not sure it would go that far. I mean, it would be a big piece of land, but here's the point.
It would be a lot of places that are now countries.
But this particular area that we're talking about now, Israel, is a land that God gave through Abraham to a people that he chose. It was a people, a place, and a purpose. We can look at it that way. Christian Zionism. I want to go back because that's where we started.
I'm not going to let you off on this because you have
Go
said
ahead.
it 3 times that God gave this land to this people. And so it is entirely fair for me with respect to ask, what land are you talking about? Because I just read Genesis 15, as I have many times. And that land, I think it says, from the Nile to the Euphrates, which is, once again, basically the entire Middle East. So God gave that land to his people, the Jews, or he didn't. You're saying he did. What does that mean? Does Israel have the right to that land? Because you're appealing to Genesis. You're saying that's the original deed.
It would be fine if they took it all.
What? What?
Okay.
We're going to waste American blood and treasure giving them monopoly money to buy back our actual resources when they have a greater Israel agenda to take over these other countries, and the ambassador of the United States of America says, oh, it would be totally fine if they did, based on they have a right because God gave them the land. Well, what if I don't celebrate the Christian God because I'm Muslim? Do I just go, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know your God gave you this land. I thought we were also descendants of Abraham. Isn't that the whole thing? Isn't that the whole point?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see how asinine that worldview is when nuclear weapons and battleships are involved?
Yeah. Seems like we need a new rep.
We might need a whole new ideology, Ron. You know, one where everybody is part of the covenant, a la the New Testament.
Oh.
Israel does not have a right to the land. Humanity does. We are all invited to be Jews by being Christians. We superseded the Jews in our ideology so that we could have the Catholic Church, which is a synonym for general and universal church. The Catholic Church welcomes all, regardless of your original faith, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your political status. It welcomes all. Totally. I thought America was a Christian nation. Why would we believe that we're not a part of that covenant, but we've got to defend their covenant, which is 2,000 years old, which by any legal standard, I don't know how you exactly, bring forward the paperwork. They use the word deed. Do you see how big a deal this is? Imagine being Saudi Arabia. Imagine being Lebanon. And the ambassador's like, well, it'd be fine if they just took over Lebanon. It'd be okay if they took half of Egypt to the Nile. So all these countries put out a joint statement. Big deal. Come on. 22nd February 2026, the Ministries of Foreign Affairs of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, the Republic of Indonesia, the Islam Republic of Pakistan, the Kingdom of Bahrain, the Republic of Turkey, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the Syrian Arab Republic, the Sultanate of Oman, the State of Palestine, the State of Qatar, the State of Kuwait, the Republic of Lebanon, the Arab Republic of Egypt, together with the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the League of Arab States, and the Gulf Cooperation Council, expressed their strong condemnation and profound concern regarding the statements made by the United States ambassador to Israel, in which he indicated that it would be acceptable for Israel to exercise control over territories belonging to Arab states, including the occupied West Bank. They affirm their country's categorical rejection of such dangerous and inflammatory remarks, which constitute a flagrant violation of the principles of international law and the Charter of the United Nations and pose a grave threat to the security and stability of the region. The ministries stressed that these statements directly contradict the vision put forth by President Donald J. Trump, as well as the comprehensive plan to end the Gaza conflict, which are based on containing escalation and creating a political horizon for the comprehensive settlement that ensures the Palestinian people have their own independent state. They underscored that the plan is grounded in promoting tolerance and peaceful coexistence, and that remarks seeking to legitimize control of the lands of others undermine these objectives, fuel tensions, and constitute incitement rather than advancing peace. The ministries reaffirmed that Israel has no sovereignty whatsoever over the occupied Palestinian territory or any other occupied Arab lands. They reiterated their firm rejection of any attempts to annex the West Bank or separate it from the Gaza Strip, their strong opposition to the expansion of settlement activities in the occupied Palestinian territory, and their categorical rejection of any threat to the sovereignty of Arab states. They further warn that the continuation of Israel's expansionist policies and unlawful measures will only inflame violence and conflict in the region and undermine the prospects for peace, and called for an end to these incendiary statements. The ministries underscored their country's steadfast commitment to the inalienable right of the Palestinian people to self-determination and to the establishment of their independent state along the lines of June 4th, 1967, and the end of the occupation of Arab states.
Well, why don't we all just go hang out in the Valley of Jezreel and end this like men?
Maybe we can go to the Mount of Olives and Jesus can finally touch down and the earth can split open.
Yeah.
I've talked about this in the past, about how cults and religions and this base programming is sometimes hard to expose when people take on the secular mantle. But you have an ambassador to Israel. This guy was a governor of Arkansas. This guy understands power. Oh, it'd be okay if they took it because the Bible says so. Pump the brakes, buddy. Pump the brakes. You see what I'm saying? I'm not going to defend Islam.
Well, there was a paragraph.
They got their own cult thing going on.
There was a paragraph.
Mental virus.
There was a paragraph in that letter from those people, those entities that have control over those areas, and they seem to understand where Israel is coming from, and they seem to understand what power Israel has and doesn't, and they seem to understand what lands that Israel has claims to and doesn't. So how come these guys that live there can understand it, but we can't somehow?
It boils down to just narrative. Okay? Israel, we have supported this idea that they can occupy, they've sent settlements into territory that wasn't theirs, which is what started this conflict 50 years ago or 40 years ago, right? From the Arabs' perspective, the Western world says Israel has a right to defend itself. And the Arab world is saying, so do we.
Yeah.
So do we. Who started this? They're the ones that crossed the border. There was already tension here. Jews and Muslims aren't going to get along. Okay. There's already tension. But British had control of the land of Israel. They gave it to the nation state of Israel, blah, 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 blah. So you have a political detente. It was Israel that crossed their border. It would be no different than America going down and settling Juarez. We're just buying up whole neighborhoods, building that mountain range over there. That's ours. Okay? They did that. Why? Because in their theology, they own from the Euphrates to the Nile. So what's the big deal? God will fight our battles. Maybe. Or the USS Ford will. Or the USS Liberty, or any number of conflicts that we've been involved with. We have toppled 7 Arab states in our lifetime because Netanyahu wanted us to. There's no other reason. There's no other connecting thread. Every nation that we have toppled since the 1980s, Netanyahu's come to our Congress and pled the case. If you get rid of Saddam Hussein, Israel will be safe. If you get rid of Gaddafi, Israel will be safe. If you know what I mean? If you fight the Egyptians, Israel will be safe. Fight Iran. It's always leading to Iran. I mean, finally, it's like, let's just take out Iran and finish the list off. See where we end up. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not, again, what dog do I have in this fight? I don't care. I do care when you print my dollar bills, of which I'm the creditor and have to pay the bill, and give it to them and then extract resources from our country to give to them to kill little kids. I don't really appreciate that. It makes me really wonder who's actually running this place. Like, is there a possibility that maybe aliens are actually in charge of the planet?
Oh, no.
So Donald Trump asked Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War, to release the UFO and alien files. But before we talk about that, let's talk about a great way to save and transfer money. Maybe. The delay from when you click it to when you can start it, it's hard to transition. But it doesn't say accepted. What is the dealio, bro?
I don't know. It's hard to know.
It's hard to know. We need more of you guys to click these links, because then maybe they'll like be active or something. I don't know. Nope. Okay. Well, just keep trying it there. So, all right. So we're gonna watch this clip. We're gonna listen to this clip. This is from a while back. We played this. This was Nate Burleson, who is from Missouri, and he had a classified briefing in a skiff where he was told about aliens, and he got on a phone call with donors or whatever and just spilled the beans, at least as many beans as he could spill. And again, we're on the cusp of disclosure. So the stuff that these guys are hearing in the skiffs and then they're bringing out and talking about, let's start putting this stuff together. let's start filtering through it a little bit, because something's about to happen. And we've got things like Project Bluebeam. So we have to now put this all on the table so we can look at it with clear eyes. So let's start with this.
So what Grush has told me, this is what blew my mind, and what he said that happened with Trump. And I'll just tell you this, and just again, I don't know that. I want to preface this by saying this is not what I believe. This is what I've been told. Okay, he said that the Nordic people or the Nordic aliens are like a few hundred years more advanced than we are, but they're not super advanced. They're not like, he said the Greys, whatever is sending the Greys is extremely advanced, like thousands and thousands of years more advanced than us, because it's doing all the anti-gravity stuff, all crazy, all this crazy stuff that's very highly advanced. And a lot of it is what he says with the Greys is psionic. So they basically don't have physical interfaces. They're using their mind, and that there's an interface that picks up thought, and then that and that's how they operate these vehicles, is out of psionic. But the Nordic people somewhat resemble humans, and they have been experimenting with crossbreeding with humans. And he says some of them, that there are aliens that are crossbreeds living in the world. And I asked him, I go, okay, do they know that they're a crossbreed, or do they, like, how would you know that they are a crossbreed? And he didn't have an answer for that. Like he didn't know if they knew what, but he said that the briefings he's had talked about them. And he said when Trump was briefed on this topic, because Trump finally had a briefing and he was in the middle of impeachment, like he was in the middle of being impeached. So he's going through that. And then he had like this existential briefing that just kind of rocked his worldview. He joked in the briefing whenever they said that there are these half breeds. He joked that Adam Schiff must. So,
personally, if I have to cast my die and place my bets, I'm going to say Silicon Valley is full of the half breeds. All these Asperger guys that can program code all day long, those are the half breeds. They've got like a mental expansion on one side of their brain. Isn't that interesting? So you've got multiple species of aliens, whatever that, not humans, on Earth. Now, I've heard mantis, I've heard reptilians, I've heard the Greys, and I've heard the white Nordics, and I've heard the blues. Those are the 5 species that you hear come up over and over and over again. Anna Paulina Luna, and this is actually from a little while ago, when she got her little classified briefing on UAPs and alien life, and this is what she said on Fox News.
What's hard for some people, and I get this, some people are deeply religious out there, no matter what their faith is, and you're a Christian, and I think some people are embracing it, but also confronting this idea, like, how do I square this with my faith if there's either something else out there? But you're saying that it could actually maybe mesh with your faith.
Well, I think that the Bible's pretty clear that humanity was not its only creation. And I'm not saying that these are, items that were addressed in the Bible, but it is interesting that if you look at historical context and also documents that have existed throughout time in humanity, and we can get probably into a whole nother topic on that, but you read into the book of Enoch, a lot of this advanced technologies is potentially referenced then. And so all I'm saying is that from a national security perspective, we, the American people, deserve to know what the government has. They shouldn't be hiding it. And that's what we're here to push for.
Yeah, we do.
So do you know anything about the book of Enoch, Ron?
Not much.
So I've only read it once. It was years and years ago. And so some of when you read it, it's just like reading any scripture, reading a very ancient text, right? But when I was researching it and stuff, it alludes to things like, the angels, the Nephilim, who had children with the sons of men. Those are half-breeds. That's in the Bible. That's in Genesis. It references the moon not being there. People think the moon is a spaceship. It's in a weird orbit, shouldn't actually be as close as it is to our planet, blah, 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 blah. That it's a artificial moon that that's where our souls go to the light when you die, and then you reincarnate from there. It's like some type of soul harvester.
Okay.
So there's all kinds of theories out there, but what Anna Paulina Luna is saying is, well, don't abandon Christianity. Go read the book of Enoch, which is referenced in the Bible. Jesus references it, right? So it's like maybe that's the missing text that connects the dots. Maybe Peter Thiel, who very well might be one of these half-breed aliens, was asked about aliens and whether, what are they? Are they angels? Are they demons? And he has an interesting take on this.
I always wonder, that I'm about to give, but what the alien civilization can be like.
Little buffer.
Well, thanks for not obliterating us.
Seriously. We're at 39. I have to refresh this.
And you could sort of take over the whole universe.
You could take over the whole universe. Which one?
Huckabee.
Huckabee.
When Huckabee was on there, it's like, what are you doing?
The story of that was fascinating. So Tucker flew to Israel real fast. They did that interview in his assistants afterwards. And when Tucker came public with it, then Mike Huckabee put a video of him in the terminal taking a picture with someone. That was before anybody was detained.
All right.
So what Peter Thiel goes on to say is he's like, because they haven't killed us yet.
Yeah.
Right. Unless, of course, we're a farm.
Oh.
In which case, why would you kill the livestock? Just pick them off one at a time. The farmer never kills his whole herd. You know what I'm saying? So this is President Trump. He was briefed. This is on MSNBC Now or NBC News. He was briefed on the aliens.
Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it. That's according to Israel's former space security chief. In an interview with an Israeli newspaper, he said, the aliens have been waiting until today for humanity to develop and reach a stand in general what space and spaceships are. NBC News chief global correspondent Bill Neely explains this one.
Hi, Alison. Well, this is quite a story, and it comes from the man. Trump is aware of the existence of these aliens and had been on the verge of revealing their secrets, he claims, but was asked not to do so by the Federation in order to prevent what he calls mass hysteria. Well, the retired general says the U.S. and Israel have kept it.
The aliens told Trump not to disclose because the aliens told him there would be mass hysteria.
In public because, quotes, humanity.
Mass hysteria.
In public because, quotes, humanity isn't ready and the aliens don't want to reveal themselves until humanity can evolve. Aliens don't want to reveal themselves until humanity can evolve, he says, and understand what space really is. Well, the good news is that he claims an agreement has been reached between the US government and the aliens, a contract to do experiments here. There's also, he says, a secret underground base on Mars where there are American and alien records.
Fascinating this plays into the whole Gaia channel and Corey Goode, who was taken up into the Federation and taken to Mars and trained as a space cadet, then eventually was returned to Earth. This is the Israeli space minister, and we're watching NBC News, Ron. This isn't like 1962 and that War of the Worlds reading and on the radio, right? Like this is NBC. The Book of Enoch. Have you read it? No. Well, apparently it has the mysteries of the universe in it.
Aliens exist.
Of Israel's defense ministry is 87. He was very well respected, at least until now. And he said all this in an interview with an Israeli newspaper in Hebrew. But it's really taken off after parts of it were published in English by the Jerusalem Post today. He says he's come forward now in the hope that his news will be accepted as true. He notes that if he'd made these claims 5 years ago, he would have been hospitalized, but now he says, I've got nothing to lose.
Who would have hospitalized him? The Galactic Federation, the Mossad, or the CIA?
So now it's no longer heretical to talk about UFOs.
All right, so let's cap this off. So we have faulty elections, so we're not actually running our own country. The people who are running our country are involved in a satanic occult pedophile ring that sacrifices and probably eats children. Okay. They're in league with the Galactic Federation, who somehow doesn't want to disclose themselves to us and have a superior technology that would, in theory, allow the elite that are in the satanic cabal of people to create a control grid to control the loosh farm that Earth is, probably so our souls can all return to the moon and reincarnate. Because it's crazy.
Because the 80s miniseries V is real.
This This is why we're a conspiracy show, because we can't even take ourselves serious sometimes, right? Like, are we really doing this? And what are you going to do today? Go sit in your cubicle and do some work? You got a federation out there with a Mars base. They won't even tell you about it.
I'm praying all day for Jesus.
Jesus is going to come again, fix all this for us. Maybe in a spaceship. Are you going to trust him, or is that going to be the Antichrist? This is crazy talk. Okay. One of the people that I have kind of grown to admire a little bit is Nicole Shannon. She was married to the CEO of Google, had an affair with Elon Musk. There was a big thing where Elon Musk apologized in public at a party, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, she talks about how in her previous life, she was pretty secular and everything in the world was kind of gray. But since she's been divorced and got involved with the Maha movement, she has converted to Christianity, which provides a better framework than everything else she's ever explored.
I come from the liberal world, so a lot of the things that they say about morality is that there's this gray zone. It's not, all good or all bad. There's not like a clear right and wrong. There's this whole gray zone. And what I've learned since becoming Christian is that there is actually an objective morality, and there is right and there is wrong. When you live your life that way, your life gets better because you end up just living in this light-filled, good-filled, morally sound, reasoned and logical way that is in line. And scripture helps us so much. Scripture helps us figure out that objective morality. But, once you apply scripture to your life, or you go to scripture as your living life, it just feels good. It feels good to live in a morality that is explained. I mean, God doesn't leave us hanging. He oftentimes explains why something is wrong, why something is bad. And then we have these incredible prophets that have written. We then have these incredible churches over the years and saints and just wonderful people that have helped interpret scripture for us as we go through the modern world. But as we go through the modern world and technology advances and the capacity of humans to manipulate nature increases, it actually makes scripture all the more important.
It makes the scripture all the more important.
Isn't it cool how people like that, when they find Christianity, you can talk to them and they're reasonable and they can find joy.
And one of the things I love about people who kind of make this late stage conversion is for one thing, they've experienced the world, but they're well educated about it.
And they're able to articulate the differences and
to bridge the gap. They don't abandon things they knew as untrue. It's the gaps are filled in.
Yes.
Right. Which is oftentimes, they often refer to believers as, oh, you just believe in the God of the gaps. It's like, well, the God of the gaps is where we find our morality. It's where we take these ambiguous technologies and we decide to use them for good, to help, and to love our neighbor, or to hurt our neighbor.
Well, and it's where you exercise faith, which is a real principle, which has real returns.
So let me wrap this up and bring it all home. Okay. The Christian faith allows for a universal, expansive view. This is what Anna Paulina Luna was saying, right? Especially if you incorporate Book of Enoch. So if you're hard fixated in Bibology, where only the word is the word and that's it, okay. But when you think about it, how Nicole Shanahan's saying, it doesn't matter the technology. There's nothing new under the sun. The aliens are telling our worldwide representatives, you're not ready for us. Why? Probably because we still kill each other. And if you're going to have warp speed and you can conquer the universe in a second, maybe you should restrain yourself from conquering the universe in a second. A godly attribute,
right?
To not do harm when you could. The Christ on the cross who could call down the legions, but chose not to.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
If we actually had in our fingertips the ability to move mountains, we would make a mess of it.
Imagine if the communists got the nuclear bomb first and not the Americans. For all the damage that we can say the American empire has done, we haven't used that bomb a third time. And we've created a worldwide detente. Why? Because we're a republican democracy. We believe in individual rights. And even if you drop the bomb on our enemies, the collateral damage we see as ourselves. You're not just getting soldiers who volunteered and put on a uniform. You're going to hit society. You're going to hit the kids, the wives, the children. Does that make sense? the generations of past that we honor your elders. Don't bomb an area where you kill everybody. It's last resort. So maybe we are coming to a culmination point in humanity. Technology's gotten to the point where information's free. Communication's gotten to the point where we have listeners right now listening in all over the country. We've got listeners in South Korea, listeners in the United Kingdom, every now and then, probably after this episode, listeners in Israel, okay? All over the world. The truth can flood the world just instantaneously right now with the internet, and AI allows deep human knowledge to be proliferated at the couple clicks of a keyboard. And we're going to go even faster than that. Are we at a point in this world where we can restrain ourselves from doing harm to others when we have a technological advantage? If aliens have been existing here all along, and if they're not harvesting us for loosh, they're clearly waiting for us to be ready to enter into the Galactic Federation.
Yeah, they're waiting for us to bury our weapons of war.
Probably.
And be a peaceable people.
So the solution there is to have an actual moral framework, to learn how to love your neighbor, even when your neighbor is a Samaritan and you're a Levite or a priest. It's being able to not walk past that. It's being able to say, just because God 6,000 years ago gave this land to the descendants of Abraham, I'm not going to have the hubris to say I'm one of those descendants uniquely.
Right. If you're witnessing suffering, like in the story of the Good Samaritan, then you need to be that guy.
You need to be that guy. Exactly. You got to have those Nordics to help you fight the reptilians. Okay, let's jump on over into private. We are going to go over a couple stories of government corruption. We're going to talk about a police chief, a judge, and a Republican that was running for office.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to talk about Rome and the history of Rome. There's a great clip that was on the Sean Ryan show. And as far as We the Peasants, I think it's absolutely perfect because we the peasants have to live here. Peasants lived through the fall of Rome. What was their experience like? We're going to hear just a tidbit about that. So let's jump on over into private. It's going to be a long private today. So if you're not a premium subscriber on YouTube, you're going to miss out. Or on YouTube, Rumble. If you're not a premium subscriber on Rumble, you're going to miss